Francesca. Welcome to my home. I can't wait to start making pasta to enjoy with your Ciao Pappy tomato sauce right after our conversation here on What Lights Us Up. So welcome.
Thank you so much. It's amazing to see these beautiful ocean views and be inspired by the ocean while we are making pasta today.
Oh, thanks. Welcome to my home. You know, we first connected a couple years ago because I saw the write-up in Golden State Magazine, which is a local magazine here in Los Angeles, if you know you're not a local and you're listening to this, about your story on creating your Ciao Pappy brand. And when I read the article, you know, you just have that feeling like you have to connect with someone, that you're meant to connect with someone. I felt called to reach out, and I remember us connecting, and I remember thinking, gosh, you have such a similar story to me. You created this brand from your family heritage. I had just created a cookbook from my family heritage, and in a way I just sort of felt like, gosh, we're two people making these passion projects that have literally lit us up, and they're both stemming from our Italian roots, so our Italian American roots.
Yes.
What inspired the idea of Ciao Pappy?
So two things. It also similarly to you, during COVID, there was just more space to kind of see the world differently and kind of take an assessment of my personal life and our life and where I was in my career and kind of what did get me excited at that time. And, a side project I was doing was putting together recipes that my dad had been building for years of up to about 250 recipes at that point. So started putting them all together in a book, and we decided to take one of his recipes, which was our pasta pomodoro that we enjoyed growing up, and give that to our friends and family for the holidays. And we had such an amazing feedback, and people said, oh my gosh, you should make this, and we started to exploring what that would take. And when we really dove deep into that category in the retail space, there was just so much room for improvement, and it hadn't been a space that had been touched for a long time. It felt very neglected and tired, and needed this just refresh of color and life and a new story and just a new presence. And being a person who never ate jarred marinara sauce growing up, some days you just need it, and you want to save time and you want to skip a few steps in the kitchen. And as somebody who loves cooking, that was an important piece of, my weekly dinner preparations and things. You just need something easy to go to, but I love great tasting food. So we kind of took those two problems and also inspiration and started making Ciao Pappy, and here we are. So we're 3 sauces in, 3 different flavors, and it's been a really exciting last couple of years.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I remember we never ate jarred sauce either. It was like every Sunday the family would have sauce. My mom would make sauce. My grandmother would make sauce. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this or if you did this, you'd take a slice of bread and you'd put sauce on it with Parmesan cheese, like from the freshly made pot.
Yep.
It was like that one memory of childhood.
Dipping, and it is. But, but those things, you have to cook it for hours and let it, really just kind of all those flavors go together. So it is time consuming, but it is a beautiful ritual, I think, in Italian families, that it's always a go-to. It was always a go-to for us at home growing up. That was just a healthy, hearty, delicious meal option, whether it was a Friday night or, a weeknight. So,
sauce is really the heart of an Italian table.
It is.
Absolutely. It's on every Italian table, every Sunday dinner table. I remember when we first connected, I hadn't started this podcast yet, but I remember when we had the conversation and I hung up and I thought, gosh, I would have loved to capture that really natural conversation and rapport that we had. And then I thought, how amazing for someone else to hear that rapport. But also, two people just connecting over their heritage, their Italian heritage, their passion projects that they literally created that allowed them to shine. What lights you up about growing the Ciao Pappy brand?
I think I have so much pride being Italian, and there is so much heart in my family and heritage, and sharing that with others and finding that common love for Italian culture, whether you are Italian or whether you're not Italian. You just get excited about talking about things Italian. And so that enthusiasm that I see from other people that is shared really gets me excited. It's an opportunity to share stories. People always say, oh my gosh, when I was in Italy, you know, it's always a point of conversation to share about something that really left an imprint on their life. So I think that there's just something about the culture in Italy and the people and the food that is so strong, that brings people together all over the world and from all different backgrounds. And to be able to share a little bit from my story, you know, being a first generation Italian American, but, you know, spending a significant amount of my time in life in Italy and feeling a huge part of my identity there, and bringing that back here and you know, to share with others is really what gets me excited. And, you know, I would love for our sauce to be in everyone's pantry, to be able to share a little bit of our history and a little bit of sense of place to kind of get people to transport into whatever their Italy is. And if that means just at their dinner table for a night, or if it sparks old memories, or if it inspires them to go visit Italy or talk about something, that really makes me happy.
Yeah, and I find, you know, I love hosting, and I think we both connect with people about our love language, about cooking with people and hosting people. And in a way, you're helping people host dinners at their table, because you're helping them provide them with your sauce and a little piece of your family and your heart to their table. So I think that's beautiful. And walk us through how, for anyone out there listening that is like, okay, I have this family recipe, I would really love to sell it, or I think it's a really great product, I think I want to share it, my friends always ask me about it, how can I upscale it, how can I monetize it, how can I produce it in a way that I can share it more with others? How did you go about going from your idea of, okay, I come from this Italian heritage, I'm so proud of it, I want to, you know, share it, I'm sharing it with friends, and how did you scale it to where it is today?
So I think most people who make a food product or work in this industry have no background in this industry. So to have a little sense of peace of mind that I think everyone's trying to figure it out, especially in the beginning. It's from what I've learned or talked to many other founders and people in the industry, you know, they all come from someplace else, but the commonality is just passion for food. So, you know, you will find the most passionate people that you'll ever meet in the food space. I think, you know, wine similarly is that way, but I didn't know one person in the food industry. You know, I came from 14, 15 years working in fashion. So if I wanted to make t-shirts, that would have been 100 times easier, you know?
Right.
But it really was totally starting from zero, starting to research things on the internet, watching webinars, listening to podcasts, just kind of trying to figure out how to start and where to start. And humbly asking for advice and support from people who maybe know somebody who knows somebody, and taking all of those phone calls and asking those questions, and just being extremely inquisitive and curious about how to get going. But, I think by way of just picking up all these little facts and pieces and just doing my own research, you kind of learn that, okay, you have your recipe, and as much as, you know, it is just a homemade thing, there is a science behind it. So finding a food scientist to take your home recipe and translating it into a recipe that you can then take to a co-packer or a manufacturer that can then do it at a much larger volume than you can do in your kitchen.
Wow.
So that step is the most important, because, and some co-packers offer those services internally. It depends. We didn't do that to start. We had a food scientist take ours and translate it. You go through a number of rounds of sampling. You want to make sure that the product is just right. You test different kinds of, in our case, different kinds of tomato products. So whether it's, you know, a crushed or a diced or a concentrate or a paste, like there's so many options.
Right. And where it comes from, probably.
And where it comes from, and, you know, the quality and all of that. So, you know, you go through that process as well. Also, that can be done either at the stage with your food scientist or with a co-packer. But really getting that first formula that you can then take to whatever co-packer you end up moving forward, that's the right fit for you.
Did you make it with the food scientist?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Yes. So he took what we had and kind of then, we worked together. We were there present for every sampling round. There are food scientists all over the world, who can do the recipe for you, ship it, you test the samples, you give them feedback and so forth. But we were fortunate that the one we worked with was relatively local. So, we were excited about being present in that process. But yeah, and then finding the co-packer is also really difficult, especially being a new brand. They're taking a risk on you because, you're starting with probably, relatively low volume to start, or at least the minimum volumes that they require. And then, they're hoping you'll grow with them and vice versa. So, we did our first production in December of 2021 and launched in end of January of 2022. So, it took about 10 months of development and sort of figuring out that whole process. We had, and for some people, depending on your product, also, you can use commercial kitchens and continue working and doing it yourself, which is also an option. For us and our product, it didn't make sense just based on the process that it requires. But, some shelf-stable products like hot sauces or dressings and things like that, maybe don't have a lot of heat required, or boiling or things along those lines, can work. Mm-hmm. Or of course other products in general, like granolas or cookies or baking. Some can even have a cottage license that you can do it at home. You're just pretty limited with what types of product you can do at home. But typically anything with pH variance you can't do at home. So but yeah, that's a basic starting point. And then after you have your product, you in the meantime have to build a sales plan and figure out how you want to sell it. If you want to go the farmer's market route, or you want to go the retail store route, or direct to consumer, and just plan out your how to get it to customers and to share your story. So we did we're mostly retail, wholesale focused, and then we do some direct to consumer. And then we've done a handful of farmers markets, but mostly for marketing and just to kind of meet the community. But everyone has their own preference and vision as to how to get it out there. But yeah, so it's a hustle for sure. It's a lot of the grocery store industry hasn't changed a whole lot in the last several decades. It works and operates in very old school, archaic ways. So, the people that you're talking to are on the floor. They're not really email focused. They're phone call driven. So they're in person. Like, there's a lot of high touch kind of sales efforts you have to do to really get things moving. And, I just think, and would recommend to really start with your community and as local as possible, and then build from there. They're gonna be your best advocates in the beginning, and they're gonna be the ones that really cheer you on to grow and support, your business. So there is so much potential, and the world can feel so big, and all these different places you can sell your product, but really starting small and then growing from there.
Yeah, I found when I was making the cookbook, my connections with others, even friends, family, community, I really leaned on help from others. I couldn't do it by myself, and even the podcast, it's like connecting with my local network to really interview and share stories and connect with. It's really important to just ask those questions if you don't know, because you're not expected to know everything when you start something, right? So did you have a business plan before you even approached the food scientist? I mean, back up from when you had this idea, you started to give it to friends and family. Yeah. You worked in fashion, but were you working while you sort of either worked on the cookbook ideas and gathered recipes, or when you started sort of thinking about, I need to approach this food scientist, was there sort of a thought in between that said, okay, I really need to employ someone to sort of, because this is what I want to do? Did you have an intent of how you were going to sell it at the point that you employed someone?
I didn't employ anyone. I'm still the only one selling it. And so it's been, I mean, I was very naive going into it. I think the best decision I made is I did a program called Retail Ready, which is, you know, become a pretty big program for startup founders in the food and CPG space. That, thank God, the timing of it was December, you know, like November, December before we launched. And I did this course and I was like, oh my God, if I never did this, I would have no idea that I needed a sell sheet. And then I needed to, you know, I couldn't just drop off samples and just show up out of nowhere that people didn't like that. You know, I'm thinking that's like, oh, that's personal, that's ambitious, that's like showing my effort, but
scrappy.
Yeah, but no, I mean, so there are so many nuances that I learned through that, and really getting some education, and also being a part of a community that you could ask a lot of questions of people who were maybe 6 months more ahead of you. And so that was really a blessing that came in around that time. I had been recommended to take that course by a number of food founders, and I was like, okay, this is the 4th time that someone has told me to do this. I'm going to do it. I did it over the holidays and finished it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I did that. But it really helped set me up for when we did launch. We had such great success the first year, and I really credit it to our approach, my preparation, and be able to have all the tools to be able to really go out and be successful in selling. I think we also had a lot of beginner's luck. I don't know why, but you know, there was, I think, more yeses than nos. You know, kind of going back to my other comment that it was a neglected category. And so I think there was like excitement around seeing something fresh and new that a lot of specialty stores also could, you know, embrace, because there was kind of nothing. There was like mass market, and then, you know, that was kind of it, like mass market, but it wasn't special enough to really feel like it fit in the store. So we had a lot of good response in the beginning, but I do think that I, you know, felt really prepared and much more knowledgeable about the industry through that.
That's amazing. Is that Retail Ready only for CPG products, or could it be applied to, you know, someone going into fashion, or they want to open a boutique, something like that?
It's only CPG.
Okay,
Food, CPG, and beverage, yeah. Because the founder was a former grocery buyer.
Oh, interesting.
In San Francisco for a place called Buy Right. So
interesting.
I'll send you the information. You can put it in the show notes for anyone
Yeah.
who needs it. But it's a great place and a great home for a lot of newbies. Yeah. So there's a lot of resources there. She has also a great food podcast that I've learned so much from as well. But I think above all, you know, you really have to be proactive in teaching yourself, especially because, you know, being an entrepreneur is, you know, it's up to you how much you want to learn and take on and whatnot. So no one's going to come in and just show you the way, you know,
right.
Unfortunately. But that's been, I think, if it excites you, you know, you'll be excited about learning those things.
Exactly. You mentioned you worked in fashion. Yeah. I also worked in fashion.
Yes.
And it was, I think we both worked either side by side with the culinary ventures or prior to the culinary ventures. And we both, in a way, were sort of pushed down these paths towards, I believe, more purpose that sort of led us to sitting here today, having this conversation. I still think what helped me create that cookbook. I really have no idea outside of this force inside of me that said just keep going on it. And I'm not sure if you can resonate with a similar feeling of sort of what helped you. You know, you didn't come from that industry, like you said, and you switched industries and just were so inspired to share your story, to share your product, and to just get it out there. You were inspired with learning about, you know, getting it out there and the industry in general. My push from the universe was more recent with the loss of my job, but I trust that by following and doing more of what brings me joy, I know I'll be led on a path to an extraordinary life. How has the journey of creating the Ciao Pappy brand changed your life?
Well, I think very similarly to you, I had also lost my job, and all these different doors had opened up. You know, I was at a point in my career that I was no longer being challenged, and I did feel kind of I had hit the ceiling, and I had stepped into doing consulting and staying in the luxury space, but, you know, on the side was developing and building Ciao Pappy. And so and, you know, really did it for fun. It wasn't like, I don't think we had any idea that it would kind of, you know, I thought, oh, this is going to be fun. It's a great, you know, homage to my dad. And it just kind of has molded into something far more than that. And the universe really was like showing me all the signs that you're doing the right thing and in the right place. And I think if I didn't have that year of just really being able to kind of reset and reassess and evaluate my life and career and really decide and figure out what I wanted to do and what was best for me, and make those choices for me, not for another employer or a company, but really choose myself, you know, it has worked out. You know, I think if I didn't have that experience, this would not have happened. You know, I wouldn't have had the space, the time, the passion, the heart, the focus, the self-reflection, the opportunity to really, you know, learn about myself again. I think also, you know, understanding my identity and kind of what is that now and what does excite me, and this sort of just showed itself, and, you know, now we're in a place where it's like, okay, we have to, what's the next phase, because it is working and it is going someplace. So that is so exciting, and it's scary. You know, it's actually, I think there's more pressure now because of course I want to be successful, and you know, there's the little voice of the fear of failure that constantly, you know, is chirping, but you know, you kind of have to push it away and just trust that, you know, to your point, like your passion will really lead you to having that life that you want, and it comes from the best place, and that's your heart. You know, it really comes from a true, real place, and that, I think, more than anything is really how people become successful, is when they're doing something very genuine.
And you mentioned having the space,
yeah,
to think about what brings you joy, because when you're so clouded with so many to-dos and priorities, and your work-life balance might be off, you don't have the space to think about, what do I actually like to do? What do I want to be doing? How do I want to be more intentional about what I do? And then sometimes you can't even recognize the joy of something that brings you unless you're open,
for sure,
to receiving that feeling, and also open to these signs that might be leading you on that path, to say, yeah, you're on the right path. We're going to send you something else. This is going to work out, because it's, you could never even imagined how it was going to work out, you know?
And to comment on that too, it's sort of, you get to be your own boss too. You know, you get to kind of create what you want. And so now I look at the company and the brands, and, you know, it is a reflection of me, and it is a reflection of who I am. And, you know, it's exciting to see that. You know, it's exciting to see sort of all of my background, experience, and personal self kind of accumulate into one thing. And
it's fulfilling.
It is. It's definitely a lot. It's fun.
Yeah.
It is fun.
Very fulfilling. And you sort of feel like, do you feel like it's leading you to your purpose, or do you feel like
I do. I think it's leading me to a lot of lessons and a lot of growth. Like, that is for sure. So it's pushing me and stretching me in many ways. Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. And the job loss really pushed me towards trying to follow my intuition a little bit more. And you talked about sort of seeing signs, being aware of signs, following signs the universe might send you. I had an intuitive thought that I needed to go back to my Italian roots. My cookbook is called Cooking with Italian Roots. And I had just had this feeling, what if, as an extension of that, I go and visit distant relatives in the hometown of where my grandfather was born, and really immerse myself in that food culture. And I just had this feeling I had to do it, and I did it. And I just came back from that trip. I've been back probably a week, and I spent a week there, and it was incredible to just be there and observe this simple Italian life in this small little town, where they really talked about food being really the epicenter of everything that they do. All of the recipes sort of are centered around food that is from that region, that they grow themselves. It's all naturally grown. They have local shops they go to for the local panettieria next door that makes the bread, the fruiteria, you know, the neighbor next door gets them cartons of eggs, delivers crates of eggplant. Pumpkins are very native to the town where I was. And so it was incredible to just learn that, but also there was this sense of love, like we talked about, having that love for something and really sharing that love of something that you're doing, this joy that you have. They have this joy around food and hosting people. We had lunch and dinner together every single day. It was incredible. We don't do that in America, you know? We have it, maybe you grew up having it on Sundays with the family, and then you're working and you have so many other priorities. Every day for lunch, they would get together and make this homemade meal. And a lot of it, they didn't measure the recipes. They knew it was done from love. They knew it was done. They knew how to make it because they remembered, they've made it for years. They don't need to measure it. And they're just like, okay, that's how it's supposed to feel. That's how, and they put this love into what they're creating, you know, and I put this love into creating a cookbook. I'm sure you put love into creating your sauce. And I believe it's up to us to really keep traditions and stories alive. It's up to us to learn sort of our heritage and carry that forward. And really, it helps shape who we are, and it carries stories fondly in our minds, but also shares it with the world. How has the journey of creating Ciao Pappy kept you connected to your family roots? And what have you learned as a result of this journey?
Oh my gosh, in so many ways. I think, well, to your comment about, you know, how people don't dine together anymore at home, which is so true, and the statistics are actually so sad to read that just doesn't exist in homes anymore. And if they do connect, they're in front of a TV or whatever else. But I have to credit my mom. She was very, very disciplined about making sure we all had dinner together every night, even if it was 10 o'clock. Like, obviously, as we got older in school and we were doing activities, dinner became later. But you know, she really made that a priority to make sure we were all together every night. When my dad came home, he could come in and cook, and like we were just, that was our family time to talk, and you know, that was a really important part of our week and our every day. So I think that certainly is a part of my life. You know, we make a home cooked meal every single night. We eat out once a week. You know, we really try to eat fresh food and, you know, enjoy what we have at home and have that time together. Because I enjoy that. That is something I certainly, you know, cherish and, you know, think is an important piece. But, you know, I do think that is something we do need to continue to promote in families today, and to make sure that, you know, everyone is staying connected, because there's so much distraction all the time. And even if it's a half an hour or an hour, that you do have that time together, or those moments in the kitchen together. And it also creates curiosity for young people about their past and about their lineage, and to be interested in, you know, how things were done before them, and, you know, who was their great nonna, and like, you know, what was she like, and you know, what recipes did she have, and you know, what is she like doing, and gardening, whatever it is, or art. I think it does help, you know, inspire kids to kind of look in the past and not so much in the forward or the future, all these things that, you know, we long for on social media that they're kind of conditioned to. So to take that space and, you know, make those habits, you know, or keep those habits in families is really important. I think I answered your question. Maybe what did I miss?
How has it kept you connected to your family roots?
Oh, besides that part, and just replicating those daily habits in my own home, in my life today, you know, it's my dad lives across the ocean in another continent, you know, so it is something that I can do every day to think of him, and also think of our family, and you know, my family growing up, and my mom and brother, and all of our traditions that we had. But it has been something to kind of help my dad and I communicate more. You know, he also has, ironically, experience in this industry. When he moved to the United States, you know, he worked for an import company for tomato sauce. So it's just, he's been a great resource to ask a lot of questions and work on these projects together. So, you know, because we're so far away, even the smallest thing has been a daily connection to my culture.
Yeah.
That I think has been the best thing about it. Is just like I constantly every day get to have some feeling of Italian culture and spirit in my life, my work, and just whatever we're doing.
Yeah. Do you ever have anyone come to you and say, "This reminded me of my childhood"?
Yeah, oh
or
my
my
gosh,
heritage?
all the time. Yeah, that's like the best compliment you can get. It's like, this is like my nonna sauce. Like, so that is the best thing to hear.
And it just makes you feel, gosh, I'm on the right path.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
Going back to that.
Totally.
It gives
or
you
that their kids love it, and they're like, or my kid hates all tomato sauces except yours, like that.
Oh, really?
Like those are nice things to hear too. That they're like exploring new flavors, and tomatoes or the sauce is something that they're enjoying. So those are things that are fun to hear too.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like I've been watching on social media. You've been so intentional on where your product is carried and the message that you want to portray about your brand. I think you do a really great job at it.
Thanks.
I get excited when I see your sauce in specialty markets. I know I told you I saw it next door at the market next door. And then I think I told you my cousin was in New York and she saw your sauce at what she said was like the hottest market in the West Village.
Big night, yeah. It's so cute. It's so cute.
She texted me and I'm like, oh, I have to tell her. I think that's really exciting. What advice do you have for someone who wants to build a brand, whether it be a product or a brand about themselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think also having come from the luxury goods space and seeing a lot about quality, I think at the end of the day, you have to have a good product. Consumers are very discerning these days, and the product quality is going to ultimately make or break you. Unless you're going to the direction of just trying to get mass market and have huge volume and you're able to make those sacrifices, or if that's something that isn't super important. But I do think a great product can take you a long way. And if it means that your margins are smaller in the beginning to keep your quality, it's okay, because over time, you will be able to work on that, and your product will always still be superior, or at least that's what I hope it is. But, and then secondly, packaging, I think is really important, to of course tell your story. And there are things that, we're working on improving. It's always kind of an assessment on like, how can we better tell our story in our packaging and where can we improve? But I do think that something that will stand out, that feels, relevant to today's consumer, and your marketing, I think that those obviously need to be super buttoned up, product and marketing and packaging, and then the rest of it, you can learn along the way. But your marketing and product also is so important for a new product, because it's, that customer has 5 seconds to decide what they want on the shelf and what's going to call to them. So if it's a color story, or if it's a design or typography or whatever that might be, you want to stand out, obviously. You did a great job. I feel like the last holiday season where you were featured in, I feel like Goop and other publications with your boxes. Yeah. And then you have like today you brought the 2 different tomato sauces, so people can quickly buy your box. Can they buy it directly from your website as well as maybe a specialty store or a market? So our specialty stores only a handful of them will carry the boxes during only the holiday season. So if they do a lot of holiday gifting baskets or promotions, we'll get them boxes to use. But online, probably I would say 75% of our orders online are people giving gifts. So it's a really great gift item. It's under $50. It's going to be enjoyed and consumed. People will love it. They'll share and create memories over it versus just like an object. So we do a fair amount of gifting, in the holiday season online, and you always will get the little red box, which is year round, but it happens to be a great seasonal color. So it looks beautiful under the tree, or you can wrap it pretty easily. So a great marketing tip. It is. That was a great marketing tip. Yeah. Exactly. So be like as resourceful. And when we made the box, I wasn't thinking, oh wow, this would be great for Christmas because it's red, but it actually ended up being great for Christmas. But there are things that you can think about, that kind of can help you be as resourceful as possible, because we are still very scrappy. Extremely scrappy. How did you get in front of big publications like that? Was it just organically, they found you, your social media presence? That's where I kind of go back to beginner's luck, because I would say a handful of them I pitched, but most of them came to us. I don't know how people found us. I don't know. I mean, I think also part of the retail strategy for new people is to really, you know, those top stores in your local town that are, you know, beautiful and visible and give you great shelf marketing and shelf PR people, it's a great discovery place. You know, a lot of journalists, a lot of buyers go to those places to see, you know, who those people are carrying, because the packaging's beautiful, or the product's great, or they have really high standards for whatever products they do carry. So when people are traveling or they're even in town and they discover you on the shelf that way, I think that has been a great kind of almost free marketing for us, that we've had that shelf space in some great stores that then just kind of ripple affected into the, you know, journalists finding us or whatnot. But again, you know, we were a new product, kind of fresh in the space, and so it was a lot of beginner's luck too.
Great, that's awesome.
Yeah, the PR side is also a lot of work and pitching and things like that, but it's you know, and I definitely could spend more time doing that, but you know, you only have so much time in the day.
I feel like it's the biggest thing people sort of spend their time on.
Yeah.
It's social media, Instagram, TikTok, like what's the newest thing? How do you get more followers or more this or more that? Right. It doesn't necessarily mean you'll get more business.
For sure.
Or monetize something. So you just have to, but like you said, you got a sign. You had beginner's luck. That was your sign.
Yeah.
That you had a product that worked.
Right.
And you've just been great at sort of getting that message out there, having that consistent message.
And we sample, you know, we're in stores every weekend, you know, sampling our product, talking to customers, meeting people, getting the feedback. And it's validating to hear that people love it. And like, you know, that when they taste it, they buy it, you know, so it feels really good to know versus just, oh, well, let's see what happens. You know, you have to really be out there connecting, and as, you know, grassroots as that is, like it is so important in the beginning to be able to understand so that you know and you're confident as you grow, because and while you can be local and while you're the founder that can meet the people in person is so valuable. You know, our business here locally, you know, it shows that it's the strongest versus our business in other markets where we're not present. You know, it's a little slower. You really have to lean on the store team to help educate and push the product and, you know, make them your cheerleaders and your representatives. But it is so helpful to be here and just like boots on the ground, like in meeting people, shaking hands, you know.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and it goes back to leaning on people's help. Like I was gonna say, there's a ton of Italian Americans in Connecticut, so definitely look at some shops there. Let me know if you need help with your family. They'll be listening to this episode, so we'll get your name out there. And for anyone that wants to find you, find your sauces, buy your sauces, gift them, how can they find more of you?
CiaoPappy.com. We're on Ciao Pappy Instagram, so super easy, PAPPY. CIAOPAPPY.
I'll link it in the show notes.
Cool. And it's a very easy website to purchase. Join our newsletter. We're doing also some promotions for anyone who's on the newsletter to have a discount for any gifting for the whole rest of the season. So we'll launch that in a few weeks. So that'll be fun. Hopefully, will be a good resource for people in their holiday gifting. You know, we're on TikTok and everything else, but yeah, Instagram is our most active channel, and we try to put a lot of effort into that and tell a few of the different stories about our brand and about the sauce that, you know, I think will be a good resource. And we also do tons of recipes and things like that.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. And we're going to do a cooking show right now. After our recording, we're going to cook some of my cavatelli. Cavatelli is how we say it, and your Ciao Pappy tomato sauce, and we're going to just chat for a little bit and catch up. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you. This is so lovely. I'm so glad we got to meet finally.
So happy we got to meet and connect.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.